Okay, so let's make sure we give credit where credit is due here, guys. These methylation cycles I'm showing you and this information I'm trying to share with you, this isn't my research. This is Dr. Amy Yaskow, who does most of the research revolving around the methylation cycle. And her story is mainly that she started helping adults with mystery, hard to define illnesses like chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia and thyroid problems and irritable bowel problems and autoimmune disease. And what she found was that they had methylation cycle defects from their genetics, and she was able to identify roadblocks throughout the cycle and all these different enzymes that we check, and she was able to find detours around them through the use of nutrition and nutraceuticals, which is the study of nutrigenomics. But her career path eventually led her to where she started working with kids with autism, because what she found was 98% of children with autism have this MTHFR mutation. Now, all these different illnesses that we've discussed, just because you have a mutation, does it mean you're going to get that disease? Absolutely not. But does it mean that you have a higher risk of maybe developing one of those diseases? Yes, it does. So the type of illness that you may be subjected to would depend on what your mutations are. So if you had the C677 mutation, that's the pathway that, as we talked about, metabolizes homocysteine and keeps homocysteine from building up in excess in the blood. Well, if you get that, you're going to be more prone to inflammatory conditions like heart disease, cardiovascular problems, heart attack, stroke, migraines, Alzheimer's, and miscarriages and infertility are highly linked to that particular gene. If you had the 1298 mutation, your disease risk would be a little different. You're going to be talking about the neurotransmitter side of things. And as I told you about the serotonin production in the gut, if you have the neurotransmitter defect, you're going to be at risk for all the digestive illnesses. That's reflux, that's bloating, that's gas, that's irritable bowel, that's inflammatory bowel. But then all of the anxiety, depression, stress, ADHD, all those mood-related problems come more with the 1298 mutation. So another thing worth pointing out on the research side of the MTHFR is if you can't make that conversion from folic acid to the active form of B9, then what's going to happen is if your diet is still taking in a lot of folic acid, or your vitamins are taking in a lot of folic acid in that synthetic form, that's going to build up in your blood because you can't convert it to anything else. And we've found through research that high levels of folic acid in your blood can actually lead to dementia, and can also decrease the activity of your natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are the part of your immune system that deal with cancer. And the cancer risks that go up with this mutation, specifically when you have high folic acid, as the research points us towards prostate and colon cancers. So these are the things that I discuss with my patients every day. These are the most common things that they want to know about. And when we start talking about methylation, they want to know how it relates. Well, methylation, again, is talking about detox phase 2 in your liver. So we are subjected to so many toxins, you guys have no idea. Please come to one of our detox lectures. Please come learn about the toxins that are in your everyday life and how to get them out. But what you should know is thyroid problems do relate to this defect, the MTHFR, because if your detox pathways are limited because of this genetic issue, then the toxins that wreck your thyroid will be too high in your blood. So let me just mention a few of those so that it makes sense to you guys. Endocrine disruptors, there's plenty. Plastics, pesticides, insecticides, fungicides. All these things change the way that your body processes its hormones, and so we call those endocrine disruptors. We have a group called halides that are in our environment. These are bromine, chlorine, and fluoride. Now here's the key about halides that wreck your thyroid, is because halides compete for binding sites with iodine. Iodine is used to make your thyroid hormone. So if you have excess levels of bromine, chlorine, or fluoride in your blood, you're going to have a deficiency in iodine, and that is going to make it very hard for you to make thyroid hormone at an efficient rate. So I know what you're thinking. Well, Dr. Payne, I'm sure I don't have bromine or chlorine or fluoride in my blood, so let me give you some quick examples of how you may be getting this in your body. When we talk about bromine, so bromine's in sodas. They use it It's a brominated vegetable oil, and it helps to keep the artificial flavors from separating. And then we have things called PBDEs, which are polybrominated diethyl ethers. These are flame retardants. These are in all your plastic utensils, your cookware, your cell phone plastics, your electronic cables, your computer plastics, that mouse that you grip all day long. It's sprayed on your mattress, it's in your carpet. These are all flame retardants, but you get them everywhere in your environment. And this puts bromine in your body. And the other way that is far too common is they put something called potassium bromate in dough to make it stronger. So in bread, crackers, chips, flatbread, pizza, all these things are strengthened with potassium bromate, which is terrible for your body. And most people know fluoride, you're getting that from your toothpaste, mouthwash, and unfortunately in your tap water. So the next group of toxins that can wreck your thyroid would be metals. We have heavy metals and we have trivalent metals. The trivalent metals are probably what you've heard less about. But that's aluminum, arsenic, tin, thallium, and cesium. Again, you got to know where your exposures are. If you're gonna understand that you may have these in your body, then you need to understand where you're getting them. So arsenic. So over 70% of conventional raised chickens have arsenic in them. So the chicken and the eggs they produce, because they feed them antibiotics that have arsenic in them, and the arsenic gets in the chicken, you eat the chicken. Same thing with turkey feed. Arsenic is also very high in rice, tobacco smoke, shellfish, and unfortunately, again, your tap water. Tin, well, you get tin from canned vegetables, seafood, fungicides, and your dental fillings. And tin in the canned vegetables, I know you're thinking that, well, they coat it with plastic, right? They coat the can with plastic to protect you from the tin. Well, and the plastic's got BPA, so there you go. Now you got a different kind of toxin in your body. Let's see, thallium. Thallium is something that is more, it's in the environment from just a respiratory exposure. So they used to put lead in gas. Most of you know that. They put lead in gas to protect your engine. Well, then they found out lead was devastating to your body, and there's a public outcry to get the lead out of the gas. And so what they replaced it with was thallium, which is almost just as harmful. So every time you're at the gas pump or you're sitting in traffic and you're breathing in fumes and exhaust, you're getting a nice dose of thallium. And then aluminum is probably the highest risk exposure, because aluminum is in your cooking pans, your cans, it's in your antiperspirants, it's in foil, it's in your vaccines. I don't know how many of you knew that, but when you get a vaccine, your body would not react to the vaccine unless they put something in the vaccine that was extremely irritating. They call that an adjuvant. Well, the adjuvant that they use is aluminum. So there you go, a nice dose of aluminum straight in your bloodstream. But every one of these things in your body can wreck your thyroid. So what do you have to do? You have to get this stuff detoxed and out of your body, which is another reason you need your methylation cycle functioning properly. Now, the other type of patient who should really be concerned about this MTHFR, at least another status, would be expectant moms, or women who are trying to conceive. Because if you have this mutation and you have that elevated homocysteine, your risk for miscarriage and preeclampsia and Down syndrome and infertility are all up. And in general, just having that mutation and not knowing it has a huge link to postpartum depression, neural tube defects in your babies, and of course, we've talked about the link with autism. So, how do you know? How do we find out? Here's the beauty of it. The downside of finding out whether or not you have these genetic SNPs is nothing. The test is simple. It is a saliva test that you do in your own home, and you mail it off. But what you're going to get is you're going to get a complete assessment of all the potential genetic SNPs in your body. Now, the ones we're talking about specifically relate to the methylation cycle. I've only discussed the MTHFR, but there's probably close to 50 that apply through that pathway that can be evaluated and that you can do something about. So that's nutrigenomics. If you knew where these roadblocks were, these are just construction zones for your body trying to run its biochemistry to keep you healthy. If you have genetic predispositions for any of these mutations, then you can detour right around them with nutritional changes, food changes, and nutraceuticals. That is the study of nutrigenomics. That's the beauty of it. That's why Dr. Yaskow, if you read her books, says she chose the methylation cycle to do all of her research with, is because there are answers, non-pharmaceutical answers, to every one of these mutations. And another good thing about getting them tested is your genes don't change. Once you test it once, you never have to do it again. This gives you your roadmap over time to learn how you're going to support your body with nutrition to have the best possible outcome for your health. Now, what does it look like? I thought I would give you a quick example here so you could kind of see what we get back when you do the genetic testing. The genetic test will come back. Now, this is two separate patients. This is their methylation cycle. As you can see, several enzymes, okay, are tested throughout the cycle. Anything in the right column that is green would be a normal finding, which would be negative, negative. Anything yellow is a heterozygous mutation, which means one gene is mutated, or one nucleotide is mutated, and one is not. And of course, the worst case scenario is the double mutation, the homozygous mutation, which would be the red. So, in the genes we were talking about, right here, the MTHFR, let me highlight it, 677, and the MTHFR 1298. For this particular individual, they are a heterozygous mutation at both levels. What does that mean? It means that they're 50% reduced function of that enzyme. So this is someone who needs methylation support. So for a quick example, this is what the support means. It means that they can't convert the folic acid to active B9. So what would be the answer for them? What is the common sense approach? What would you think? If you cannot make the conversion, you should probably think, well, hey, can I just take the active form of B9 and then the conversion is not necessary? Absolutely, that's the magic. So what you're going to do is you're going to take active B9, which is a 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. You're going to learn you need to get folic acid out of your diet because it's just going to build up in your blood and give you other problems. But once you take that active form, you have completely detoured around that one mutation. And now your body can have the cofactors it needs for the methionine cycle to run that pathway, to produce methyl groups, to detox the homocysteine, to make glutathione, to do all those wonderful things I said for your body. Now, each of the mutations I will go through separately. I'm going to do one more video, and I'm going to actually take one of these panels right here, and I'm going to show you every enzyme along the way, where it is, and how we can go around it with nutritional supplementation. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your time watching this. I know it is a lot to take in. I don't want any of this information to worry you or scare you. This is just for you to get informed that there are ways to educate yourself and empower yourself with your health so you can get on the preventative and wellness side of what's going on with you. So look forward to seeing our next lecture.